If overthinking is running the show, even when you've done all the right things and you're still mentally rehearsing 5 outcomes before taking the first step, that's not strategy. That's mental overload. That's mental overload disguised as preparation. When you're double checking your tone, rewriting your emails, you're replaying the conversations in your head over and over. That's not just being detail oriented. That's actually your brain trying to preempt every possible issue before it ever happens. It feels productive, right? But really, it's just keeping you stuck in motion with no real movement. That's why today I'm going to be showing you how to stop the overthinking loop before it drains your energy, before it hijacks your focus and turns your workday into a 24-hour shift your brain never clocks out from. But before we start, I want to introduce myself. For those of you who are new to my world, I'm Leslie Gadet, self-care strategist and creator of the Yes Reset method, my 3-step system I use to help high achieving women reset how they say yes so they can enjoy their life while running a business they love, have space to think and breathe, feel energized in the day, and make confident choices without overthinking. Now, if you find yourself overthinking everything you say and do, and your brain stays on even after you shut your laptop off for the day, and you're also sitting maybe at dinner with your kids trying to be present, but your mind is stuck rehearsing an email you haven't sent or replaying a conversation for the third time. That's not just mental noise, that's overthinking. And it's your brain's way of scanning for mistakes, solving problems that don't exist yet, and stealing your presence from the moments that matter most. And if any part of that sounds familiar, then you already know that overthinking doesn't stop when the workday ends, right? It follows you home. It follows you into dinner. It follows you into bedtime, into every quiet moment that should feel peaceful, but it doesn't. So if you want to know how to stop second guessing every decision, calm the mental spinning, and finally feel clear enough to move without replaying every move, then stay with me. Because in just a bit, I'm going to walk you through a real time strategy to help you stop the overthinking loop before it hijacks your energy and swallows your time. I want you to be able to trust your decisions the first time around without needing to double back, to second guess, or mentally revisit them all night long. So, first, let's talk about the kind of exhaustion that doesn't show up on your calendar because it's not coming from your workload. It's actually coming from the weight of your own thoughts, the constant analyzing, the reanalyzing, the mental play out of every possible scenario before you even take the first step. That's not just a mindset issue. That's emotional burnout in disguise. And it's time we name what's actually happening underneath it all, right? Starting with why overthinking feels like control, but it's silently stealing your power. Now, it might look like procrastination on the surface, right? But inside, you've been stuck in a nonstop loop of thinking, rethinking, and bracing for what could go wrong. You're running 5 mental simulations, trying to prevent a misstep, to avoid disappointment, and to guard yourself from getting it wrong. You think you're just being responsible, thorough, on the ball, like you're just planning ahead. You're covering your bases, you're being thoughtful, right? But what's really happening is that your nervous system is rehearsing for something to go wrong before you even begin, waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're trying to buy yourself safety by thinking through every possible outcome because you don't trust that your decisions will hold without triple checking them. So you keep spinning in the loop, right? And the loop sounds like, let me double, triple check this one more time just in case. Or what if they misunderstand what I meant to say? Or what if I missed something? Or, I just can't stop thinking about it because I don't want to regret this decision later of not making sure that all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted, right? Making sure that it was just right. But what you call preparation is often just fear in a polished outfit because looking ready feels safer than feeling ready. But what's really happening is that your brain is trying to outthink vulnerability. You're trying to outplan your discomfort, meaning you're trying to outwit it, convincing yourself that if you think far enough ahead, you'll never have to feel uncertain, exposed, or wrong. And so what you're doing is you're trying to control perception so that you don't feel exposed. And that kind of thinking it doesn't end well, not when the task is done. It doesn't end when the task is done, right? Because you don't just stop overcommitting. You don't just stop overthinking just because the moment ends, right? Because even when you shut down your laptop for the day, or the meeting is over, or the conversation is finished, your brain keeps running. Not because there's more to do or more to say, but because your nervous system, hasn't gotten the message that it's safe to let go, to actually stop. So even after that conversation ends, right, your mind has it on replay, wondering if you said the right thing, trying to decode that one moment where their tone shifted or their body language somehow changed, or if you should have said something differently. And maybe it meant nothing. Maybe you're overthinking it. But then again, what if you missed something? This is what's going through your head. So you keep looping, trying to figure it out just in case, right? Or even take that email you want to send, right? Maybe it's a pitch, maybe it's a collaboration, a speaking opportunity that's come across your feed, and you believe in the message so much, but you believe in how you want to respond, but only up until the time it's time for you to hit send, because then suddenly you're rereading it and you're changing your words and you're rephrasing it over and over. And even though you've already spent an hour on it, you still can't tell if it's good enough. So you hold back because it doesn't feel perfect enough to protect you from the what ifs. It's what makes you tired before your day even begins and mentally exhausted before you clock off for the day, because you're carrying the weight of every what if before your feet hit the floor, and every did I miss something that keeps you from fully logging off mentally at the end of your day so that you can recharge. It's why rest doesn't feel restful, because the mind won't shut off, right? Because when you stop, even you stop moving, you can't stop thinking. And that's a recipe for burnout, even if you don't recognize it for what it is. So it's time to stop calling overthinking as being responsible, right? Or on the ball or thorough. And instead, let's start calling it what it really is. It's your nervous system on high alert because it doesn't know it's safe to slow down. And here's the cost: you can't be fully present in the moment because your brain's still scanning for what could go wrong. You can't access clear decisions because your clarity is buried underneath constant preparation. And you can't fully relax when the workday ends because your nervous system's still waiting for the next thing to fix, catch, or solve. So you keep circling the thought, right? Hoping that clarity will eventually appear. But clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from trust, from alignment, from choosing to stop carrying every possible outcome all at once. And it's from recognizing that your brain isn't broken. It's actually just doing what it's been taught to do, which is over preparing to feel safe, right? And so I want to help you interrupt that loop so that you can stop treating overthinking like a strategy and start reclaiming your mental bandwidth. Because again, your power isn't in the overthinking, it's in the pause. So, which is why I want to talk next about the hidden loop that keeps you on even when it's time to rest, to recharge, and actually be off the clock. When you're caught in that cycle of overthinking, relaxing doesn't feel easy, it feels risky. So you do what's familiar, what feels safer. So you'll end up reopening that email that you just sent and double checking your tone, wondering if it's going to land the way you meant it to. Or again, you replay that conversation from earlier with that potential collab partner, maybe even second guessing if you came across the wrong way, or if you missed something, or if you should have said something differently. It might look like perfectionism. Someone might say, well, you're just trying to be a perfectionist, but actually what you're really chasing is safety, right? Because in your world, being misunderstood has a cost, and that cost feels too high for you. Because in your world, you'll delay your decisions because something in you doesn't really feel ready. Like if you just think it through one more time, you're going to finally feel clear enough and feel safe enough to do it, to say yes, to commit, except you don't, because your clarity is buried underneath that emotional noise. And it's not necessarily a mindset issue or you being unproductive or disorganized. It's again, your nervous system is over functioning to protect you, again, which is your brain doing its job of safety that your body hasn't been allowed to do. You haven't allowed yourself. And so from the outside looking in, you might look composed, you could look pulled together, you could look sharp, but on the inside, you're spinning in constant management mode, managing how you're perceived, managing potential missteps before they happen, managing outcomes before you've even started. So even when you try to rest, you're still performing in your head, right? You're still bracing, you're still anticipating something to go wrong. You're still on, trying to like think, oh, like what do I need to still do? How can I make this better? Should I tweak it more? And that energy, it takes to hold that up, it's not just draining, it's actually depleting. But again, you might not call it burnout because you are still in that delivering state of being, right? You're still getting things done. So instead, you might shift it to say, I just can't shut my brain off. That's it. Like you just look at it that way. Or you might say, I need to just get more focused, thinking that there's something wrong with you. Why can't you focus better? Or you might say, I'm tired, but I'm fine. I'll be okay. Just as long as once I get this finished, once I get this just right, I'll be able to rest, right? Or maybe even think, like I'm probably just overthinking it. And then even when you say that, you're like getting in your head thinking like there's something wrong with you, like it's bad that you're overthinking, But what's really again happening is that you're burning out from being in that constant internal output, meaning you're carrying that invisible workload inside your brain. No one else sees it, right? And because you haven't crashed yet, you haven't called it burnout. Well, the truth is, it's not that you can't rest, right? It has really nothing to do with that. It's not that you can't do that. It's that again, your system doesn't believe it's safe to. And until you interrupt that loop, you're going to keep performing even in your downtime. You're going to keep overanalyzing. You're going to keep overthinking. You're going to want to make sure that you did everything right, that all the T's were crossed, that all the I's were dotted, that maybe you want to make sure that that email landed well. And if it did, and if it didn't sound the way you wanted, you might even find yourself even going a step further and crafting a follow-up email just to explain yourself of what you meant. And so you start second guessing that you even know how to write the email and how to actually come across the way you need to come across. The longer you try to stay in control without naming what you're afraid might happen, the more your energy is going to get drained by what you haven't had time to process, which is really, really important that you process what's going on, that you actually pause to understand what's going on. But a lot of the time, we're just so caught up in, again, this hustle culture. I've talked about it before. We're in this fast paced world, this fast paced environment. We think working faster, working harder will get us the successes that we want. Even at the detriment of our own health, we'll push through and even find ourselves in burnout phase and not even recognize it as burnout, but just start calling it one-off symptoms of, I'm just tired, today I'm just tired, not recognizing, that even though you had a horrible sleep maybe the night before, not recognizing that part of that was because you were working into the late into the night, and then you tried to fall asleep right away. You just fell right into bed, and your brain was still on processing what you've been working on all night. But then taking it back a few steps further, you find out, oh, if you start looking a little bit closer at your patterns and your habits, that for the past maybe week or two, that's been your MO, doing that. You've been working late, uh, falling into bed right away, not really getting the best rest, but you're on a time clock. You've got this deadline that you're trying to meet a goal, and you push yourself. And so you find yourself in a burnout phase, but not recognizing it as burnout. You're just looking at it, taking it only so far as a one-off of I didn't sleep well last night, and not taking into account that there were several nights before that and several days before that that you were repeating the same pattern. So it's really important to understand that it's not just about a one-off. It could be that you're in a burnout phase. It could just be a one-off. But then again, if it is a one-off where you did fall into bed last night really tired after working late and then tried to fall asleep and you couldn't right away, and then you had a horrible sleep and you woke up really tired today, then I can completely understand that you might look at it as a one-off. But again, that still could be a recipe for burnout if you continue that process. So I just wanted to point that out to you. So let's talk about what to do when you catch yourself in the overthinking loop, right? When you're stuck in that overthinking, when your brain's running 10 steps ahead, when you're cycling through what ifs and how to's, and you can't seem to shut it down, right? Here's what I want you to understand. You're not going to stop overthinking by thinking harder, okay? You can't outplan the fear of getting it wrong by staying on constant overdrive just to get it right. But your nervous system isn't going to reset just because your calendar, everything's done, all the meetings have been done, everything that's on your to-do list has been completed, and that it's time to log off. It's not going to reset because unless you break the loop and interrupt it and do that in real time, not with force, but really with clarity. Again, as I was saying, taking a closer look at your patterns and looking at it not just as a one-off and seeing what are your patterns have been, because there are clues if we just take a moment to look. That's where that you're going to find that you're going to be able to break that loop by interrupting it in real time, by taking a moment to pause and actually look at what's been going on. That's where the yes reset method comes in. This is the strategy I teach to help high achieving women reclaim their decision making energy, reset their overthinking loops, and lead from self trust instead of emotional exhaustion. So let's talk about what it actually looks like to interrupt an overthinking loop in real time, not with another mindset hack, but with really with a shift that sticks. So let's say you're about to log off for the day, but your brain's not on board. Okay, you told yourself, you take the evening to recharge, maybe catch up with your partner, help your kids with homework, or just breathe. But instead, you're still thinking about that one email, the one you drafted, you rewrote it, you saved it in your drafts for the fifth time. You know it doesn't need more editing, but you can't stop spiraling. You can't stop thinking about it. What if it sounds too strong? What if it's too soft? What if they misunderstand what I'm trying to say? That's the moment the reset starts. Instead of spiraling into the sixth rewrite, you pause and you ask yourself, does this align with my actual focus for right now? Or am I reacting out of fear? In other words, am I making this choice from clarity or trying to calm the anxiety by over preparing, by overthinking it, right? Every word, every inflection of like what I'm trying to get across in my email. And let's say you realize it's not actually about the email. It's about the fear of not getting it perfect, of being maybe possibly being understood and of regretting it later. And that's when you realize, because the next step is that it's not clarity, but it's actually a control loop, that you're trying to control the process, like everything, right? Because we can only control things that we do, but if we overthink it, it becomes less about being clear and more about being stuck in a control loop. And then with that overthinking added in, that's like a recipe for disaster, right? So instead, try this, which is step two. You categorize your thought because not every thought deserves a reaction. What I mean by this is, let's say you're rewriting the same email, you've already spent an hour on it, you're still tweaking it, still questioning your tone, you're still unsure if now is even the right time to send it. And that's your moment to pause and label that loop. And you could ask yourself the further questions of, is this a yes? Meaning, is this a thought that needs your action right now? Like, have you already done what you can and it's simply time to just send it and move on? And if that's the case, then the thought gets a yes and you give it closure. Now, if it's a no, meaning, is this thought that's just noise in your head? Is it based on fear or doubt or a need to make it perfect, even though there's nothing new to actually solve, to actually add to it? Then that thought gets a no. And again, you close the tab and you let it go and you can send the email. Now, the third part to this is this a later? Meaning, is this a thought worth revisiting, but not right now? Because maybe you're too tired to see it clearly. Your brain's just too loud. You can't really see where you want to see what the gaps are. You want to maybe realize, okay, then, maybe I need to just, close the tab on this for a little bit, allow myself to recharge, to re-energize, give my brain a break, and then schedule that, review it a little bit later tomorrow. Again, if it's the end of the day, review it in the morning, because then you're returning to it with fresh eyes instead of your spinning in indecision, right? This isn't about silencing your thoughts, it's about sorting them so that your brain stops treating every open loop like it's an emergency, because that can happen, right? Because when every thought gets your full attention, meaning you are just on high alert and you're overthinking everything, your energy doesn't go to what matters. It gets scattered across what's loudest, right? And then and that's the reason why you want to be really super clear about your patterns and taking that closer look, because then you can label the thought the way, whether it's a yes, everything's fine, everything looks good, why am I doubting myself? There's nothing wrong with this email, and you can press send. If it's no, is there when you say no, is it because you think you need to make I can't send this right now because I'm doubting it. I'm fearful of it. I'm doubting that I'm saying the right things. I need to make it perfect. If that's the reason you're saying no, then you want to make sure that you can say, well, go through and find out like where this is coming from, and then again you can close the tab and let it go. And again, send the email if you feel confident. But again, this in the no and the not later, it really kind of goes together, because if you're in that state of being where you don't really trust it, it could be that you're really super tired and you just need to take some time to relax and to get back with a fresh set of fresh uh mindset, freshly rested and able to then look at it from a different perspective, right? Again, you want to be able to have a process so that your brain can stop treating every open loop like it's an emergency, and allow yourself to label the thought at what it is, that it's a yes, everything's fine, I can send it, or no, I'm kind of a little doubtful, and so maybe it's later because I'm a little tired. And you can label it, and then your brain can stop treating it like it's red alert, right? And then comes the real key, because this is important, because I think a lot of people stop here and they're thinking they don't trust themselves, right? So it's the step three is protecting your yes energy. And what I mean by that is, instead of thinking, well, I have time, I should just finish it now. You recognize that time doesn't equal capacity. If your brain's already fried and it's been on all day, even the right task can really push you into that exhaustion if it's not resourced. So you want to check in with yourself and ask, am I making this decision from grounded clarity or from the pressure to prove that I'm on top of everything, that I can do this, that I'm resilient? Again, resilience does not come from pushing yourself to exhaustion. That's how the loop gets broken, not by fixing the email, but by filtering the fear. And then by noticing when your nervous system's in overdrive and using up your energy and disguising it as getting things done. And so then you stop tying that rest part to performance, right? Like peace has to be earned by solving everything first, and you instead reset. And so that's what this method helps you do, not to master productivity, but actually to stop the quiet burnout that's caused by mental overdrive. So the next time you find yourself about to overthink something simple, what you want to do is catch it. You want to make sure that you are able to catch it, filter it. And so when you want to filter it, you want to understand, like, where is it coming from? Look at your patterns. Really important. We have the clues. We just oftentimes ignore them. And then you want to protect your peace and making sure that you allow yourself to, whether it is, yeah, everything's fine. I don't know why this is just a pattern. I'm tired. It's a pattern for me. Maybe I'm really super tired. I need to take a break. I'll look at it tomorrow. Protect your peace. Like, that's so important. And remember, the thought that feels most urgent is usually the one that's stealing the most energy. So this is a core part of the process that I walk my clients through, a way to reset the pressure-driven patterns that quietly drain you, and rebuild clarity, calm, and capacity from the inside out. Now, if today's conversation has helped you see how much energy you're spending mentally spinning through the day, and you're starting to feel like like overthinking is running the show, and you're ready to stop carrying that weight of it alone, comment below or send me a message, and we can talk about it, like what it might look like to protect your energy in real time, so that your brain doesn't have to stay on long after the workday ends. No pressure, no assumptions, just a real conversation with you and me about where your energy is leaking and what it might look like for you to reclaim it on your terms. So before we wrap up today, I just want to remind you of this. You do not have to overthink everything just to make a simple choice, and you don't have to carry the weight of every outcome just to feel like you are being responsible. The power isn't in rehearsing it all, and overthinking doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you stuck in a loop that drains your energy and drowns out your clarity. But when you learn to trust yourself enough to decide without delay, without guilt, without the mental loop that never ends, then that comes from a place where you're honoring your energy enough to say, you know what, this is enough. I am enough. And this decision gets to stand. It's taking that moment to check back in with yourself, to notice if the pressure you're feeling is actually fear in disguise, and to help you remember that clarity doesn't come from rehearsing everything that could go wrong. It comes from protecting your energy and choosing to believe that what you already know is enough. So let today be your reminder that you don't have to think harder to be ready, and you don't have to carry every scenario to stay in control, right? So when you find that you're getting into overthinking, take the pause, interrupt the loop, protect the part of you that's quietly been carrying it all. Thanks for tuning in today. If this message brought something up for you and you know someone who's stuck in that same loop of overthinking, send this her way so she can feel seen, so she can feel supported and finally start trusting her own clarity again. Take care of you, and I will see you next time.